So first and foremost, we give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Harakah Kodash, Yahweh being the name of the Heavenly Father, Yah meaning He, Hawah meaning is or exists. Bahashim Ba'in Ha Bahashim His name, Yahweh Shai, to the world ignorantly calls Jesus the Christ, even though the letter J wasn't invented until the 16th century. Meaning delivered. Right? Bahashim Harakah Kodash. So, Bahashim in the name, Harakah Spirit Kodash is holiness. Right? Just giving all praise to the Most High Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai. All meaning call. Call is all. Haloyim is praise. Right? My name is Abaya. And the Most High has placed the spirit of holiness, the spirit of truth, inside of the men of the Lord, to be able to go out into the highways and hedges and bid who we will to the marriage. Right? The goal is not to be out here trying to unify everybody because it ain't written. Everybody doesn't have the spiritual capacity to obtain this knowledge, decipher this knowledge, stand on their knowledge. Because God of this world has blinded the minds of Most High's people. The majority of the Most High's people are considered to be a portion of the wicked. That's why Scripture says 2/3 of the Most High's people will get put to death, and 1/3 of the Most High people will receive salvation. Right? So this is not for everybody. I know a lot of times, or often, when the word is presented to the people reject the word. And they take it as they rejected me, or whatever brother you see out on the highways and hedges, as though we breaking down and crying because you don't want to receive the knowledge. That is not the goal. I mean, it's really laughable for real. But that just shows the lack of understanding that's in people. Right? People want people to unite, like all people. That's why the majority of the questions we receive is, well, what are we supposed to do in order for us to get on whatever righteous stance we need to be? And the answer is always, we will never unite as a people in this world, because it's not written that way. Right? The minds of the people have been too destroyed. You got a nation of people that was taken into slavery forcefully. Everything mentally about those people destroyed and replaced with a pseudo mindset that's titled black. It's power in words. Words mean things. Right? So if you substitute the truth of that people with something that's made up, such as black or Hispanic or Indian, which are all real talk derogatory terms. Black is everything violent, evil, absent of light, and light is understanding. Right? Hispanic means you are owned by a Spaniard, he is Hispanic. Right? Indian means savage or beastly. Right? So if you take the natural state of that person away and give that person a false sense of identity based off of evil and negative things, later on you will produce a human being that is void of any understanding, any hope of understanding, right? Because that people ultimately curses themselves every day, right? Scripture says faith without works is dead. So that's on the righteous side. Faith without works is dead on the righteous side. How much evil on the negative side? If you have faith that you really are a black man, or an Indian, or a Hispanic, which are all vile things. Black meaning everything dark, void of light, meaning ignorant. Black also meaning everything evil and vile, everything wicked and sinister. Indian meaning savage and beastly. Hispanic meaning a slave, basically. He is Spaniard. Hispanic, how much more wicked is that person going to be? If his faith is towards something wicked and his works show that wicked faith, that individual cannot be righteous, because it literally ain't in them to be righteous. Right? Unless the Most High deem you to be so. Because none of us were born knowing this truth. We had to hear it, we had to see it, and then we had to understand it. Right? You had to be born again. So we had to take off black and Hispanic and Native American. And we had to put on our true selves, which is Yasharah. Right? So, the men of the Lord have been ordained to come out into the highways and hedges to the Most High's people and warn them. Warn them that this so-called peace you've been experiencing in this land, which really isn't peace, it's just you being accustomed to the oppression. That's it. It's you being used to the hoods and the ghettos. It's you being used to being less than and having the worst of. To the point to where now we call that culture. Right? We call hood life culture. Right? We had to take that off and come back to who we really are, which are sons of the Most High, Israel, or Yasharallah. Yashar, Prince, Allah, power. Right? Prince of power. Son of power. Son of God. The warning is this so-called peace that you've been experiencing is about to come crashing down. It's the book of 1 Thessalonians. Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 1. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of Yahweh so cometh as a thief in the night. It was common knowledge amongst us as a nation back when we knew we were a nation and weren't identifying ourselves as black or Hispanic or Latin or Jamaican or wherever we are, because we've been scattered all around the world. It was common knowledge of who we are and the prophecies pertaining to things that would happen to us in the end times. It was understood that Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai would come back like a thief in the night, meaning people would be unprepared. When a thief comes in the night, no one is prepared for someone to break into their houses. It ultimately catches you by surprise. Then, you take on that flight or fight response, but at the end of the day, you still got surprise. Right? But it says, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Alright, so the Most High is saying, this pseudo peace that you've been experiencing in this place, which ultimately isn't peace, it's just you getting used to oppression. Right? It's you getting used to basically hell. Because this is what this is for the so-called black man, for the so-called Hispanic man, and for the so-called Native American man. This is hell. This is not your true self. Your true self is not to be asking nobody for nothing, man. Your true self is to own. Scripture said this world was made for our sakes. So if all around the world we're living under the oppressors that took us to these different areas, if all around the world we living in places that are subpar, and we are working, pause. Not only are we working, but we're working for individuals that hate us. And we have to beg these individuals for employment. That's what the application process and the interview process is about. That means you're not in a heaven. We're in someone's heaven. It's just not ours. Heaven is a state. It's a way of life. Just like hell is a state or a way of life. And I'm gonna prove that. It's the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 5 and verse 13. Therefore, my people are gone into captivity because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore, hell hath enlarged herself and opened her mouth without measure, and their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoiceth shall descend into it. So by us being in a captive state, by us having no knowledge, by us having no leadership, and by the multitude of us being confounded, right, and operating in a pseudo mindset, Scripture says that's hell for the so-called black man, for the so-called Native American man, and for the so-called Hispanic man, because of where you come from. You come from royalty. This is just facts. And it ain't got a damn thing to do with Egypt. It ain't got a damn thing to do with pharaohs. But it got everything to do with who your power is. Your power is the creator of all things, both spiritual and carnal. Your power is the most high power of good and evil. And he chose you to hold the title of sons and daughters.